going off the air right now, the August 7th edition from Rhode Island. A lot of stuff happening. First and foremost, I'm BX Sports Jedi Kev with my host PGA Chris. What's up, Chris?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, another decent show of Impact. We got some cool things. We won't spend too much, but it was a better show than I thought.
It was a very good show for 2 hours. It went pretty fast. We'll find out now the card for Emergence next week. So Santino Morelos will let us know there. But we get started off with Trick Williams coming out, cuts a promo, calling pretty much everyone in Moose family bobbleheads to the point where Moose had to come out to kind of stop the berating of Trick Williams. But here's the one thing though, not a lot of talking from Moose. Moose came in and right to business, wanted to get into punched him and was going to go to the physicality. Trick Williams and Scabes. The build up for this matchup, where listen, we're big Mike Santana fans and we want Mike Santana in that title picture. But right now, the way that build in a short time, Moose and Trick Williams got me invested.
Yeah, they're gonna have a good match at Emergence, and obviously the partnership helps. TNA is what's it called? They're taped every week, so Moose Coin's on NXT helps the storyline, helps it get still fresh in people's mind that don't have to wait till Thursday. So that helps a lot in this feud. Um, Again, we're gonna see another one of those can they coexist type of things on Tuesday. So that's just gonna add more heat and drama leading up to their match for later that Friday. So they're doing a good job of building this match. Again, we don't know what Moose is gonna do after or whatever that circumstance, but it's gonna be a good match, and I think they're building it the best they can for a show that's in a week. So.
Right. And of course, we're going to see them on NXT. Trick Williams will be teaming up with Moose, Javon Evans, and Obafemi taking on Dark State. They show the clip of that throughout the show here. Another one here, they go to the backstage promo where we have Gabby Laspisa in for the commentary for the interviewer section to interview Gia Miller, but Miller interrupts. And Boyd, I never saw a side of Miller that way. It says, pretty much relieving Gabby a piece of thank you for holding the place. But before she takes over back her interviewing spot, she goes on a really, really dark promo saying to Tessa, if you ever put your hands on me, I'm gonna freaking kill you. Pun intended. I was like, whoa, she meant business. So I like to see that. They're building their probably Tessa versus Gia Miller match down the road. We know she has some in-ring ability and could wrestle. We'll see where that goes there. That's gonna be fun. And then Gia's back and she immediately right to host. She interviews Joe Henry. They talk about the main event tonight against Order 4. They get into it for setting that main event for Joe Henry versus, of course, Mustafa Ali, Order 4. Santino, they cut away from Santino. He's with Adriana Grace, going to go in the back of the office. Before that, going back in the office, we saw Mance Warner and Steph Delander talking to Santino. No one was in there. And they decided to go in Santino's office and procreate pretty much. So that leading into something later down the road there. Let's talk about what we want to talk about here. The first match, Jake Something versus the international champion Steve Macklin. I thought the match was really good, back and forth, quick pace. But we knew it was a tape show. We knew that a title. What does that do for Jake Something to get pinned on a televised tape match? And we know the titles weren't going to change hands. How they got to the finish, typical classic, play it safe, a count out. Both men try to get back on the apron. They struggle. Are you all right with that result?
Yeah, it sets up for a match at Emergence and no disqualification. Like I said before the show started, you got to put that international title on a big show like this, a live show, to kind of make that title feel a little more important, to make Steve Macklin feel a little more important. And they're doing that. They're gonna have a really good match. They're gonna have not that they didn't have a good match tonight, they did, but that was really just a setup for what's coming next week. Um, that's really where they're gonna show off and do their thing. Again, no disqualification. I think TNA is gonna. I know we heard rumors earlier this year that TNA was gonna like chill out on the blood. I think they'll do it still for occasions, maybe like this. So this is gonna be a kind of hopefully a treat. to the hardcore wrestling fans that like to see some of those style of matches. Not all the time, but once in a while. So yeah, they're gonna nail it out of the park with that one. I think Steve Macklin retains.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, with that, I don't want to very delete. Frankie Kazarian was on commentary. Frankie Kazarian will be doing the King's Court interview with both of these men. Some way, somehow, I wouldn't be surprised if Frankie Kazarian interjects himself in
Yep.
this situation within that international title picture. Keep an eye on that. What happens to Frankie Kazarian, the King, going forward here? We go there. We go into. They go into a break. They come back. Cedric Alexander cuts a promo. His match against Leon Slater coming up at Emergence, talking about how, when he even talked about MySpace. We had a MySpace account. He always talked about that he was born to get this X Division title.
Mhm.
To him, this is something important. It means something for him. He already had a shot, but it was in a triple threat. Like he told Leon Slater, I didn't get pinned. I wasn't the one that lost. So now it's just a one-on-one setting up for Emergence, which could be the match of the night next week at
Yes.
Emergence, setting up with those two gentlemen. I'm excited to see what Leon Slater is going to do in the ring, chemistry wise, and movesets with Cedric Alexander. I can't wait for that match. That
Yeah.
build and anticipation is great. The promo was good. They will go on here. We get knockouts. We get the Elegance brand. M by Elegance and Heather taking on Zaya Brookside and Ying Ying Lee. This one, you know what? They gave the women time to wrestle and tell their story. This had about almost 15 minutes of match time. Back and forth they went. They worked pretty quick. They worked pretty fast. There was some spots there where Zaya, Ying Ling Lee was the one that was taking the workload where she had to get with the struggle for the hot tag. Back and forth they went. Zaya, or I keep calling Zaya Lee, but Ying Ying Lee gets the pin where it kind of needed for her though. Be honest with you, I goof around that with her where she's from her hometown in I thought it was a rib by WWE. I thought that was Vince McMahon, Chongqing, China. She's actually from there, so I like to have fun with that. But she needed that win. Very important for her to get that win. And I thought all four ladies worked well. Nothing bad about this match.
No, nothing bad about this match. Just they obviously we got what we got, which we'll talk about coming out of that. But it gives them her and Zaya some time, right? Um, I know I said a couple months ago, at least when Spitfire was still hot and kind of switching around the tag team titles, they need more knockouts. I think the returns of the inspirations helped that a lot. But you got to build a new knockouts tag team. So Xia Li, I keep calling her Xia too.
I
Uh,
too. Yeah.
Xia
Give me
Li
the
or Ying Ying Li, Xia Li, and Xia Brookside. That's also why I keep calling her Xia, is because
Mm-hmm.
of Xia Brookside. Um, but the Zayas, they gotta
There
get
you
built.
go.
They gotta get built up. And they're doing that. And they're doing that. And Ying Ying Lee getting the pin here was shocking, but she needs that. She needs that. So nothing really much to talk about. It was a solid match to set up for what we got
Yep.
or what
What
we're
we
getting.
Something that was set up earlier in the show in Trick Williams' promo, they were going to address the Casey Navarro situation. Trick
Mhm.
Williams said he got hit with the crutches from Casey Navarro. They were going to address that later on, and we got to an emergency first class podcast or interview segment, whatever you want to call it, where AJ Francis comes out, talks about their near misses and anniversary and Slammiversary, so forth, where he kind of tells Casey Navarro he's out. Next man out. You're injured. You're cut. You're next man. And the returning of Rich Swann back to TNA was a pleasantly surprised to see Rich Swann. We know he had his issues and he was battling his issues outside of the wrestling world. Cleaned up now, resurfaced in Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Looks like he's getting his head in the right place. Opportunity. I love that the TNA is opening them back the opportunity to return to first class. But the promo part of it, AJ Francis laid into Casey Navarro, and I felt bad for Navarro because Navarro put the whole makeup, or the facials to feel that sympathy for Casey Navarro. But your thoughts on that? I thought it was well done.
It was greatly well done. Again, I've been saying for months that this is gonna happen, and I didn't expect to happen right now the way it did, but I liked it. Rich Swann returning. We haven't seen him in a while in TNA. Obviously, like you said, he had his own things going on. He's back. Um, the thing, and I felt so bad for Casey, but the thing is, I think everything AJ Francis said was facts. I mean, when you really think about it, right? Him, AJ, and Rich were champions before KC got there in first class. Um, his first KC's first tag team match was a tag team title match that Rich Swann and AJ won.
Right.
So a lot. It really was hard to feel bad for KC, knowing that everything AJ Francis said it was pretty true. But one thing I wanted to say during the watch long, but I wanted us to really hear because it was getting good. I think this is good for Casey because when he comes back, everybody's going to be behind him. Uh, everybody's going to want him. It's going to be a big bully, versus little guy type of situation. I think, pro wrestling, that's a big thing. That's how you get people emotionally invested, and they did a good job of doing that. Um, Again, AJ Francis continues to prove, he's the best, one of the best heels in that company. And we're gonna see where it goes. Torn ACLs are no joke. I've had football. I've had a lot of my friends have those injuries, and they're in about a 9-month recovery. Once you get your surgery, it's about 9 months. A whole pregnancy. So that's a long time. But when he gets back, he's gonna get a mega push, and I'm excited.
Listen, it works from it's been working since the Bible days. If you're a person that believes in faith, David versus Goliath.
Yeah,
This is a typical David versus
exactly.
Goliath in professional wrestling in 2025. Is it done before? Absolutely. But now with that story, the way he left, with that sad face and getting ridiculed off the stage, get off my stage. The one thing that other than him getting physically put through the table, which was I thought they were going to go with that. They were going to physically put Casey through the table,
Yeah.
and then you would have gotten, and I think he would have put the cherry on top. But I guess he guarded that respect to walk out or limp out of the segment on your own, looking back like I can't believe this MFer really did this to me. So
Hmm.
that's what I got on it. Everyone likes the David versus Goliath matchup, and we'll see. Like you said, Casey Navarro, that comeback. It's up to TNA or Casey on social, seeing his recovery, his workouts, his road to recovery. It's going to be a long one, but if he gets us invested via his socials, and everybody follows him, like you said, emotionally invested in him coming back when he returns. Holy crap! I think AJ Francis is the type of heel you want to see him get his comeuppance. They got the right heel, and now if they do it right, they're gonna have the right baby face to want to give AJ Francis what he deserves. So great job there. They got gold on the table or money on the table to be made when it comes to TNA long term storytelling booking here for TNA. Great job there, setting the seed, and now it's up to the performers to water it. Even if AJ Francis, he's done great things on social media, smoking a cigar, ripping Casey Navarro. Let's say him and Rich Swann has a little success. Remind people that he has success because he got Rich Swann back, not with that, or so quote unquote he called Casey kind of a loser. That loser Casey, I would have not been here. Keep that story going. Sprinkle it in so the fans and don't forget, and you continue to keep watering that seed. So I love where they went there. Now they went to come when they went back to Santino. He was with Adriana Grace's daughter. They were gonna have something to talk to you about. They were gonna talk about. He opens the door in the room in his office. And of course, it looked like they were trying to make a little baby Warner in the room. And of course, he was mad. And of course, that was just comedy. They moved on to the next thing. What they did went to go is Mariah Sade had her in ring one-on-one matchup. Um, Nothing there, is just showcasing her. Vicious Vicky, independent wrestler, which a lot of people want TNA to sign her. Maybe that they impress, and maybe they'll bring her back. It was about Sade, formerly known as Jakara Jackson. She looked great. Her finisher looks good, and the opponent, Vicious Vicky, is not a no little short woman. She was a tall woman there, which was a good showcase for her. And it was a quick, was it about seven under 5 minute match, but
Yep. It was about like four and a
yeah,
half. Yeah, it was
and
good.
they
No,
made they went to the point. They did what they had to do. Great debut for her.
yeah, no complaints. Well said. Yeah, I think she had a good opponent. Um, she showed out. We'll see what's coming up for her. Um, I think she'll get maybe a knockouts, shot in the future. But they're gonna have to build her up a lot. So
Don't
yeah,
rush it.
exactly.
Same way they're not
Don't
rushing
rush.
Indy Hartwell. Don't rush it.
Yes, exactly. And she's doing a lot of, she's the House of Glory Women's Champion, so she'll get her indie run, indie run. because she's been doing that, doing the indie run. So once she gets that out of her system, I think they'll push her in TNA.
One thing that now we going back from we go into another backstage, and this I gotta appreciate this though. TNA was very knockouts, women centric, and there was not even a boring moment with all the women and all the knockout situation that we're having. We went backstage where Heather and M with the conciliere goes to Ash. Ash is sitting in a mirror getting herself ready for her knockouts title match against JC Jane. Very irate, saying that the ladies let her down, embarrassed her, wanted to be left alone, threw them out of their room, even throughout the concierge. She needed time to think, to be alone. And of course, could there be a little bit of a rip there? I don't know. I think that's just Ash's demeanor. We get to the match now. Ash by Elegance taking on JC Jane. Remember, Fatal Influence is born for ringside, so is the Elegance brand, but the concierge wasn't, who have accompanied Ash by Elegance. The match start. They had about 2 minutes of really good back and forth arm drag, wrestling grabs back and forth, classic one-on-one wrestling. But out comes Marsha Slamovich, similar to what Ash did to her last week, interrupts, match gets thrown out. Then all chaos breaks out because you got Fatal Influence rushing in. You had the Elegance brand rushing in. Marsha getting beat up. Then Ying Lee and Zaya Brookside comes out. That's all go chaotic, back and forth. All the ladies go, and then Inspiration appears, and we have all this turmoil. At that moment, everything finished. Everyone goes separated in their corners. Then we find out with Santino what he's going to make a fatal four team or fatal four way. Am I correct? Knockouts
Yep.
brand. It's going to be Fatal Influence, Elegance brand on one side. You're going to have Inspiration, aka the Iconics, and of course Brookside and Zaya Lee, all there and Emergence. What's your thoughts on that match? And then we'll talk about all the matches that he's going to pull up.
Nothing really to add. I like what they're doing, right? They're giving a story out of it, kind of like SmackDown, right? All the knockouts, all the tag teams want a shot at the whatever, even though they wouldn't really want a shot. It was just kind of whatever. But don't be surprised, like you said, if every single member of Fatal Influence has a TNA title around their waist. Um, it could happen. It could happen, but I think that Fatal Four-Way tag match is going to be good. Again, you got all your uh your knockouts tag teams in the match, and it could help get somebody like a Zaya over. So I think it's going to be a good showcasing for all teams. Um, and I think we might have new tag team champions, and I think it's going to be Jasmine Nix and Fatal Influence.
Let me ask this question. I know. Let me ask this question to everyone listening to us, anyone in the chat, on all different platforms. Does it make sense? Does it benefit for those knockouts title to be seen on NXT television and WTV? You know, the TNA diehards, I can hear them already. No, I don't want to. They already have two titles on their brand. But what if I say in the world where the knockouts tag team titles go to Fatal Influence, where now that's being showcased, and then if and when they announce a television deal for whatever for TNA, and one of their first inaugural shows, title starts coming back to TNA, and you go on a grandeur celebration. Let's say they have a target date for October after Slammer after Bound for Glory, the Thursday, whatever day they're picking, that's 12. The 12th is a Sunday, so 13, 14, 15. On the 16th of October, they're going to start their new brand network at whatever. Rumors had a CW, A&E, Peacock, whatever, and they're going to have that first, and that's when they start winning their titles back, or even before that. That's their way of introducing an audience to their new television partners, where some of their TNA talents start winning these titles back from NXT brand. Maybe that's something they're thinking long time the road. I wouldn't be surprised if Fatal Influence wins, because I think it makes you want to tune in more, because their first show of their new home, you've got WWE representation on that program. So I think it's a win-win. I wouldn't be surprised if Fatal Influence do come out winning, because you could give them the title without them actually pinning the champions, and the champions have stake of claiming to chase as well, Chris.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with every word you said. Again, we're seeing it with Trick and JC. I mean, that's helping TNA. That why do you think TNA is so hot? And let's just be honest with ourselves for a second. It's because of them. It's because
Yeah.
of them. So I think it's business wise, do it. Do it. You're gonna get more eyes on TNA. That's the whole point. That's why you have your two titles on NXT talent. So I'm not gonna be surprised. I'm not gonna be mad. Because again, that's they want their TV deal, they want more exposure. They have to do that. Um, and I like your theory. After Bound for Glory, whatever it is, chase the titles back and have once everyone's back, all the titles are back with TNA. Now they get going for themselves. So uh, do it, do it. Put the
We'll see.
titles on Fatal Influence. Do it.
We'll see. I wouldn't mind seeing that. We'll see there. Speaking of titles, the only set of titles that are currently on pretty much on TNA brand, although ex WWEers, are the Hardy Boys. They will have a chance. They will be defending their tag team titles. They're four-time TNA tag team champions. They will be going in Emergence. We will find out their opponents. Santino comes out. You also saw the Fourth Rope tag team titles on their shoulders as well. Santino comes out to let the people know he's got the card set up. He talked about the no disqualification match for the international title, of course, and between Macklin and something. Then Jake something. Then you have Santana cut a promo in the back with Sami Callihan, checking each other out, saying yeah he has an honor. He'll accept this match to Callahan wants to prove himself if he still's got it. He stipulation is Callahan lose. He might leaves his boats. Interrupted by Eric Young. Eric Young got in the face of Santana. He told him a lot of things that stung. He failed. He didn't win in front of his daughter. He failed his adopted family as well in TNA. A lot of things that kind of here's the way I see it for Mike Santana. That's my point of view. You got now Sami Callihan, a grizzled veteran. That does Santana have the guts to end a friend wrestling career like Shawn Michaels did to Ric Flair? Does Santana have that gold that place to eliminate Callahan? Then Eric Young, which they're setting up for next week. I thought to me they should have left that for Victory Road, but maybe they'll get to that again. Where Eric Young does Santana going to get that hate or get into that dark place to really make Eric Young suck out of a straw for a couple weeks, break his jaw, kick his ass, be more nasty on his ass. Does Santana have it in him for Eric Young? They're trying to push him because they're going to need Santana to go over that cliff or to that next level like a Super Saiyan in order to beat the obstacle that is Trick Williams currently right now. That's the way I'm seeing it. That's part of the hard time, the chase, these two grizzly TNA veterans to help Mike Santana get to that next level. He already accomplished that by beating the Walking Weapon and also knocking out, AJ Francis and so forth on a street fight. But now he needs to go to another level of championship pedigree, and they have to go against some TNA veterans to get him there. That's the way I perceived it, Chris, for Mike Santana. You want to chime in on that, or you want me to move on
Nope,
to
you're
the next
spot
match?
on. You're
We'll
spot
go.
on because the only thing I will add,
Yes,
because this is going to prove how bad Santana wants that title. That's the only thing I have.
absolutely.
The only thing I have to add. I think you're spot on.
Absolutely. Of course, Santino now announces who are going to be the Hardy Boys tag team opponents. But first, he calls out the Nemets. Nick and Ryan Nemeth both comes out. But Santino threw a little bit of a curveball, said that due to the fact that the hometown man got injured last week on the hands of Nick Nemeth, Nick will be suspended for Emergence. But Nick says we have an obligated rematch clause. So that's getting a little convoluted. I like that they said, well, there's lawyers and all that stuff. But Ryan isn't suspended. He will have a match against the hometown man at Emergence. So the hometown man versus Ryan Nemeth, to me, that's okay because all it's doing is pushing the Nemeth for, I like to say, Victory Road later down the road. So they get them geared up for the big Hardys versus Dudley matchup.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. Again, it makes sense. Ryan Nemeth gets a solo match, which I'm always down for. Um, and it sets up heat between Santino and Nick Nemeth. I know they've had their couple matches. I think when they did that whole like Canadian and American show or whatever.
Yeah,
So
Border Bros.
maybe yeah, so they can set up something like that. So I thought this was good. Again, Ryan Nemeth 1-on-1. That's a match for the hometown man 1-on-1, and a big show. So I think everyone kind of wins in that situation.
Yeah, it was a good one, and the card shaped up well.
Yeah.
Santino laid it out, and Emergence. It's a PLE Premium Live event. Gonna be about 2.5 to 3 hours length for next Friday night. You already have some good matchup. Leon Slater, Cedric Alexander. The no disqualification for the international championship. You've got the career-ending match between Santana and Sami Callihan. You've got the knockouts, four-way knockouts there. I don't know if they're gonna add the women's knockout match. Maybe they'll announce that next week or last minute. We'll find out. You got Moose versus your TNA World Champion Trick Williams. So good matches there. Let's go to the main event. Joe Henry versus Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali comes out, of course, with his order 4 into the ring. Joe Henry still gets a massive pop. You could hear it. They say people listen or watch a match through their ears. If you heard it, that crowd was electric for Joe Henry. He is still over. Match begins. Really good match. They gave this match 20 minutes on TV, with 2 commercial breaks, if I'm not mistaken. But the match was good. Both worked their ass off. Then to the end of it, it got to where the referee got pulled by Tasha Steele. She got knocked out. In comes Frank Gassino, the other referee. Back and forth, the distraction with the good hands, the agents. Agent Zero gives the big kick where Mustafa Ali capitalized with the 450 splash. He gets the victory. But you know what? It protects Joe Henry because it took the whole Order 4 organization to Joe Henry beat. Does it now? Here's the one thing though. You're presenting this Agent Zero, this massive behemoth. If he goes against Joe Henry can't beat Agent Zero immediately in a match, Chris. They got to be careful here.
Yeah. Yeah, they do gotta be careful. Agent Zero's a big ass dude. You don't want him to lose right away, especially if I personally, I'll be 100% honest. I don't know how well he can go in the ring,
Exactly.
but this could be something to where you build somebody. I mean, let's let's I mean, Joe Hendry's a good example, but what recently and out of this whole roster can you really say is TNA made? They could do this right here. They could build a new wrestler, however they do it if they want to add Agent Zero. Think about it. Mike Santana's homegrown. He started in LAX and TNA. Joe Hendry got over in the Indies, but okay, TNA is the first major company he joins. But the men, everyone else is ex WWE guys. So this is a good chance for somebody like Agent Zero to make a good showing, and they can build some homegrown talent. But the match itself, I mean, it was great. I mean, first time you have these guys going up against 1-on-1. I think it's obviously it's always interesting. I didn't mind that they did this match tonight instead of Emergence. Um, Ali is really, he's good. Like I can really see him being in the world title picture at some point. I think it's time. He had a really good story with Santana. He had a really great opening match at Slam against Cedric. Why not put this guy in the freaking world title scene? I mean, we saw that entire story he did with Santana. We know he can cut promos. We know he can say some shit that's like, whoa,
Even cinematic.
even cinematic, and that's most of it is what it was, cinematic television. So this guy, he's right where he belongs. I think this match works well. I think these are both guys. I know we're kind of on the fact about like Joe Hendry rebuilding himself. What about Ali coming into a new, not rebuilding himself because he hasn't been in that world title scene like Joe Hendry, but what about Joe Hendry or Mustafa Ali entering himself in that title picture? Um, as much as I love Santana, we can't have this tag, and I hate to say it, we can't just have speculation. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, we can't just sit here and wait for Santana and Trick or Joe and Trick or them three to run it back. We need matches in between this for Trick. We can't just have Trick wait around until he's going to lose it to defend it. That's why they're doing this with Moose right now.
Correct.
He could do this with Ali. Ali just got a freaking pin over Hendry. I know it wasn't clean in any of that, but he got the pin. So if technically speaking, Ali kind of has right now a little up against Joe Hendry. So I think Ali could be in that spot in the world title scene. For at least for now, at least we don't know if he keeps having matches, with Joe Hendry or other people, and he keeps winning. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw him in there, maybe before Bound for Glory. I'm hoping Santana's the guy and they come back to that. That's what I'm hoping. But like I said, I can't just sit here, as much as I love the guy, and just wait for this. You have to have stuff between. So
Right.
this was great for Ali to get a big win in a main event against the top guy in that company. I mean, there's barely anybody in that crowd, and like
They were loud.
literally the only people there in that crowd were the people in ringside, and that place was loud. So it's a really good match, but outcomes it's a little tricky one because Ali's impressive as of recently, since coming back to TNA, and I would love to see him in a world title scene. So that main event was good. It's good. The outcomes, we're gonna have to wait to see what happens, but I think both these guys are gonna be in that title spot in the next couple of months.
That's why I kind of said I wouldn't mind Santana going after the NXT heavyweight title over Femi. That's why I wouldn't mind that. We can't wait. So September, have a program with Obafemi. Get them going there. Even if they're cause just I don't know. That's the way I would like to see it, but it's not going to happen that way because I think like you said, you made a great case for Mustafa Ali, and I can't argue with it. Mustafa Ali, he's still a right. I'd be honest with you, if you we know we love Mike Santana, but if you put Mustafa and Mike, I think Mustafa's a more mainstream, well-known face name than Mike right now. Mike has got us emotionally invested, and we love Mike, and we want Mike the world champion. But when
you go onto
don't,
the street, and say, "Yo, who's this? Who's this? Oh, that's Mustafa Ali." And if you know about Santana, so
right.
it's tricky.
And Mike is doing this thing. Mike is doing this great thing to get over.
And if you're a wrestling fan, you know that. If you're a wrestling fan, you know that. But like I say with every company, you can't cater to just us.
That's right.
You can't just have us as your reliable audience. You have to go get Mike down the road that knows nothing about pro wrestling. Oh, this guy's on here. Oh, whoa. These are some people that I know. You put,
that's what I hope with him.
Even Joe Hendry, bro. Like when I posted my picture that I took with Joe Hendry, there were people that like from my high school or like in my yo, that's so dope. Or like I believe, I'm like, you guys know who the fuck this is? Like you guys know who Joe Hendry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like them and Matt Hardy were like the two. But the point is, like, TNA right now, where they're at, working with WWE and trying to get deals done, they need all the big names and exposure they can get. So
yeah,
as much as us diehard TNA fans might not like it, business wise, I think it'll pay off in the future.
Yeah, because they'll be able to swing to swim.
They'll be able to spend more money on production, spend more money on talent. Spend more money on bigger arenas. I know that's pushing it, but down the road, that's the production and the talent is going to be the main part. Not that their production's bad; it's good, but we went Slammiversary. I don't know about you, but for like, I'm not saying they need a big set or like whatever, but like. I don't know what's going on with their production recently, even on these tape shows. But just pyro, extra shit that might be a little bit out of their budget that you can add, like kind of like how all the other wrestling companies do, right? So business-wise, long term, I think it'll pay off. I know right now we might not like it as wrestling fans, but I think in 2026 and in 2025, I think it's gonna be worth it for TNA to do what they're doing now.
Yeah, I think they're in the right path. They're on the right road. They're doing everything correctly. Everything is they're checking. They're crossing their T's, dotting their I's, and doing a good job on it. All in all, this show tonight, despite the fact that it was already a show that was pre-taped, and next week will be pre-taped before Emergence, it was very entertaining. 2 hours went by really quick. Some of these, and this is a tape show. Some of it compared to some of the live SmackDowns that we do watch alongs, or even look, I'm gonna be honest with you. This past NXT, this was a better, much more better flowing show than NXT this
That shit
Tuesday.
NXT felt like the longest 2 hours in my
It
opinion.
felt long, and it felt like, ugh, like what did I couldn't get invested this year. Maybe because I was taking notes for this program to do a recap for a TNA tonight. I was very more invested in and very into it,
Yeah.
seeing those matches. Even though some of the finishes, you're like, oh god, we saw a lot of repetitions, count out. Marsha break coming in, the wonky finish at the main event, but it still wasn't entertaining, furthering a story because it's about emergence and the road to Bound for Glory, and that's what they just set up. They're giving you some stories that we know might get closed off for Bound for Glory, and we got the build for Emergence next week. So good job there for TNA tonight. I thought TNA was a very good show, despite being um, tape and it was very good. Everything was all right. Everything furthered some stories. Everything made sense, even though Mance Warner, Santino, what's the repercussion of that, all that. It was just cool. When Tessa returns, there's something for her already set up on the table, ready for her return back. The only one that was a little bit off, that we didn't have anything for going forward, when we mentioned, was Indy Hartwell. We didn't see nothing for Indy. What was going on with Indy? There was, what's next, because she did beat Tessa. Like, now, don't cool her off. Also, and also with we're gonna see next week Leon Slater. We didn't see much of Leon and his X Division title and so forth. But that's for our next week, and they'll close out next week. All in all, this was your TNA review. This was a very good show. Again, you gotta let TNA in, because they're telling you, they even planted the seed for a long-term story with Casey Navarro. So check the box. Very episodic, good win ring, plus storytelling. TNA continues to elevate and become one of the top companies here in 2025. Where, listen, SmackDown or SummerSlam was Monday Night Raw was okay, was good. It was not, and NXT was bad, boring. AEW yesterday. This one was really, really pretty good. So, with that said, we want to say thank you guys. Don't forget to check us out. SportsJediNetwork.com. Our website is up. You could email us, all that stuff. Follow us on X, PGA Chris TV on X, on Instagram, BX Sports Jedi. You could email me also, Sports Jedi Media on X. So we want to thank everyone, guys. Have a wonderful night. Again, this is Sports Jedi Network, the unofficial podcast of TNA and more.
Soon
We'll
to
see
be
you, man.
official.